Right, hello Kings. Good to see you. Today's science lesson, we are going to be looking at the life cycle of a plant. Now, this may be something that some of you are already familiar with, which is fantastic. But last week we looked at the different life cycles of different animals. We looked at the mammals, insects, birds, reptiles, and which was the other one? An amphibian. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the life cycle of a plant, and we're going to see how that compares to the life cycle of those animals. Okay, now again, as I said, this might be familiar stuff for you, but I feel it's brilliant to recap as much information as we can so it's really fresh in our minds. Okay, so let's have a look at the life cycle of a plant. Okay, so the first step in the life cycle of a plant is the seed itself. It must be planted within soil. Okay, now you can either put this plant within a pot or within the ground itself. Okay, so the seed can only grow if it has these three things. It can only grow if it has water, if it has sunlight, or it has soil. Okay, so it needs water in order for it to grow, the sunlight in order for the leaves to collect the sun's energy in order for it to grow, and the soil for it to spread its roots. Once the seed has been planted within the soil and it has been watered to give the plant, give the seed nutrients, it will take about 1 to 2 weeks before that seed actually starts to grow. And what this stage is called is the germination stage. Okay, so that's the first stage after you've actually planted the seed. So the first stage, you've planted the seed within the soil. Next stage, using water and sunlight, the seed will actually begin to grow, and this is called the germination period. Once that seed starts to germinate, it will then start to sprout and roots will appear. These roots will help the plant get food and water from the soil. Okay, so those roots will extend out from the seed and they will suck up all that nutrients within the soil that the plant needs to grow. Once it comes through the soil as well, producing the leaves, then that part of the plant can absorb that sunlight, bring that energy down into the plant in order for it to be a strong, healthy plant. So in those next few weeks after it has started growing those roots within the soil, the seed will begin to push through that soil. And once it has done that, it now becomes a seedling. Instead of becoming a seed, that moment it pushes through the soil, it becomes a seedling. And in its very early stages, it's still very, very tiny. And the roots itself help to anchor it to the soil and keep it from blowing away. So if you think about it, that seedling's going to be incredibly small. So it's really important that those roots are extended far enough in order for it to be stabilized within the soil, so it doesn't blow away, so it isn't affected by weather. Okay, so lots of things are happening at this stage of a plant in order for it to become from a seed, in order to become a plant. The seedling is going to continue to grow, and it will begin to get leaves, and the stem will grow longer and longer. The stem helps to keep that plant straight and upright, giving it stability as well as the roots. But also, in order for it also gives stability, but what it also does is it helps to carry down and deliver water from the roots. Okay, so water is being pulled up from the roots as well, sucked up from the soil, helping to keep that plant healthy. Those leaves, think of the surface area of those leaves, they are like their own solar panels. Okay, so they're absorbing all that sunlight in order for that plant to be really healthy. So the water comes from the roots up the stem through these very tiny tubes. And as I said, the leaves soak up that light and air, and this process is called photosynthesis. Now, photosynthesis, for some of you that may not be aware, is the process that plants go through in order to make their own food. Okay? So photosynthesis, plants need water and carbon dioxide. They use those together, and with sunlight, they will create glucose and oxygen. Now remember, we talked about this with our lungs lesson. Plants, they need carbon dioxide, whereas we as humans, we do not need carbon dioxide. It's a poisonous gas to us. So we expel carbon dioxide, and plants, they expel oxygen. That's why it's important that we rely on plants for our survival. So they need water and carbon dioxide. Using those two things, with sunlight, they will produce glucose, which is a type of sugar. And this is the thing that helps keep plants alive. These are the products of photosynthesis, and they will also produce oxygen. But that oxygen is used not for them, because they expel the oxygen. They give it to us as humans in order to survive. The next stage, buds will begin to appear at the top of a plant, and they will then turn into a flower. And it depends on the type of seed what flower will actually come about. It may even turn into petals, or it may turn into fruit or vegetables, depending on the type of seed. The seeds are located at the center of the flower. Okay? Once that plant has stopped growing and the plant will die, those seeds will then drop onto the ground. Seeds might be spread by wind or rain or animals, but then these seeds will go into the soil, they will start to extend their roots, and that life cycle of the plant will start to repeat once again. So the seeds from the plant are found within the flower. Okay? So if you have a look there in the diagram, you can see just in that center of the plant, that is where the seeds are kept. Then those seeds will fall to the ground once the plant has died, or they may be spread by the wind or different animals, and they will then start their life cycle again by spreading those roots, absorbing that water, and they will become seedlings, growing those leaves, growing those stems, and becoming a plant all by themselves. Okay? A recap. This is what plants need. They need air. They need light, water, and nutrients from the soil. They also need warmth as well, which is a really important thing. But why does it need these things? First thing, if a seed is not warm enough, it will not germinate. Remember, that was one of the early stages of the life cycle of a plant. And germination is when the seed starts to sprout into a plant. So once it spreads its roots, it then will push through the soil and go from becoming a seed to a seedling. If a plant does not have enough light, it will grow to be tall and flimsy as it searches for light, and it will probably die. So that's why some plant stems try and grow much taller, because they are searching for that light, because they need that sunlight to produce their own food. If a plant is not watered enough, its stem will be fragile and will have very dry leaves, will eventually die. So think about all these different things the plant needs to survive. It needs sunlight, and the stem will search for the sunlight. The leaves try to spread that surface area out as far as they can, so they can absorb sunlight. But if they don't absorb that sunlight, they become fragile and will die. Okay? These are the different parts of the plant. The leaves use that process called photosynthesis to produce that food for the plant, using light, water, and carbon dioxide to do this. The stem will transport water and nutrients to all parts of the plant, and the roots will take up that water and nutrients from the soil, and they also keep the plant firmly stabilized within the ground. Okay, so it's used for sucking up their nutrients, and it's also used for stability. Okay, so I'd like you to pause the video here, have a go at these 5 questions. What do you think would happen if a plant did not have sunlight or water? Why does a plant need roots? What do the leaves of a plant do? How does a plant grow new plants? And if you could plant a garden, what kind of seeds would you plant? Okay, pause the video now and have a go at these questions. Okay, welcome back, Kings. So this is today's task. I would like you to draw a life cycle of a plant and see how it compares to the mammal and animal life cycles you did last week. Same process of completing those, but I would also like you to write a paragraph or 2 explaining the similarities and differences between the life cycles of animals and the life cycles of plants. Okay? Look forward to seeing those. See you later, Kings.